for the last 40 years. And today I have my special guest. The book itself is a Pulitzer Prize Committee nominee. And the title of the book, The Weight Behind the Spear. And my special guest today is no other than Dr. Josh McConkey.
Thank you
Welcome
very
to book.
much.
Welcome to Book 101, Dr. Josh. And can you please introduce more about yourself?
Yeah, thank you. So I was born in Seattle, so not too far from you. If you're out there in Vancouver, in British Columbia, I was born in Renton. I moved out to western Nebraska. My dad was a railroader, so my entire family on my dad's side, great grandfather, my grandfather, and my dad, a long lineage of railroaders. I broke the mold, so I went to college. Went to a school, Chadron State College in western Nebraska, and then went on to medical school. I'm an emergency physician and also have had 23 years of military service. I've been a critical care air transport doctor, a flight surgeon, and I'm a commander right now in the Air Force Reserves. But wife and three kids, and just trying to get out there every day and make a difference. So the book has um, it's done very well. I've felt very blessed.
Certainly blessed, Mr. Josh McConkey. Thank you so much for sharing your knowledge to the world. So, can you explain the meaning behind the title?
Yeah, so be the weight behind the spear. That's my personal leadership ethos. As a military commander, as a physician, I work with lots of people, young and old, and have seen a lot of I see a lot of people at their worst. Right now, we've got a huge mental health crisis. And so the book is written to get people to engage their communities, get out there and get behind something or someone that matters to make your community better. To understand that ethos, be the weight behind the spear. If you understand the tip of the spear, what's the tip of the spear? So, as a military professional, I've served with some special operations. I was medical director for PJs, Combat Search and Rescue. And these are men and women that just do on those teams that do amazing things, just jumping out of helicopters, rescuing children in cave systems in Thailand in 2018 when those children were trapped in that cave system in Thailand, that Thai soccer team. This is the people that get the call to go in for those type of rescues. I do not have those skills. I don't take lives and do those types of things. I save lives. I'm a physician, but I take care of men and women that do some of those very special things. So being the weight behind their spear or the tip of that spear, every one of these special operators has a favorite coach or teacher or family member, somebody in their life that has given them the confidence to do those amazing things. And everyone has that opportunity. You can be the weight behind that spear in your community. So that's the whole purpose.
Beautifully articulated, Dr. Josh. Very well said. Who is the book primarily written for? Leaders, teams, or individuals?
So anyone that works with the Gen Z COVID generation. So that encompasses a lot of people, teachers, coaches, business leaders, and families. So I think some people that don't realize that this is still their problem, the mental health issues. I see anxiety and depression and suicide. We had a whole generation of kids and young adults that were shut out of schools, shut out of churches, and really isolated during those COVID years. So that whole Gen Z generation, that COVID generation, they're coming out looking for jobs. So they're coming out of high school, they're coming out of college and university, and business leaders are finding out very quickly that it's a very different population to be working with, and there are a lot of mental health issues, and just the way they learn and the way they interact and the way they communicate is much different, and it's hard for some people to really wrap their head around and understand. It doesn't do any good to chastise the generation and be like, well, back in my day, we would. It's not helpful. How are we going to solve the problem? How are we going to help them be successful? So this book is that prescription to fix that problem. So anybody that's going to deal with that generation, I think business leaders have a huge role in that they may not realize.
Definitely interesting, Dr. Josh. So, what key message or lesson do you hope readers will take away from your book?
That what they do every single day does matter, even the little things. The people that you interact with, your colleagues, your friends, your coworkers, it takes a team. Life is a team sport. And, we need all hands on deck. Get out into your community. Everyone has something different to give. I coached Little League, I coached soccer. Some people don't want to coach little kids. Maybe you don't particularly like people in general. And so there's other ways that you can give. Go to your animal shelter. Those animals are going to be emotional support animals for someone to help them be successful and help with their anxiety, their depression. So every little thing that you do, volunteer in your church or your school, serve some meals at the soup kitchen. There's something for everybody. Everyone has a different set of skills, and what you do matters.
Certainly, people, if you have a talent, show it to the world and give back to the world. So, Dr. Josh, is there a personal story or moment that influenced the ideas you share in Be the Weight Behind the Spear?
There's a lot of stories in the book. I'll pick out one or two for you, but the book, just the response that people have had to it, I've been very, very, very happy with. Probably the best compliment that I've received so far is, someone told me, I read the book and the stories are so great. I felt like we were just sitting around the campfire and you're telling stories, right? So,
Yes.
for me, there's some great stories of just overcoming obstacles and everything. Sometimes life doesn't go your way. And, one individual, so one of the men I served with in the military, Kiwan Amy, young, energetic, um, boom pod operator in the KC-135. So that's the air refueling capabilities for, jet fighters and doing all kinds of crazy things. And this individual, I watched him on CNN. So I'd worked with him for a couple of years. He was on CNN refueling some F-15s, in the Syrian theater at the time. Like, sky was the limit, out doing amazing things. And one day, driving back from our drill weekends as a reservist, he's driving back to Durham, North Carolina. He's driving a motorcycle, and somebody pulls out right in front of him. He has two options: pull into oncoming traffic and take somebody head on, or just smoke this vehicle, just T-bone it. And he had horrific injuries. Just that split second, his life is going just amazing. He was finishing his degree in Durham, and everything changed. So as a result of that accident, he was left blind. Liver injuries, crushed his chest, long bone injuries, like fractured both in his pelvis and his femurs. He almost died. And so, I mean, he basically had to learn to walk again. He's now blind, and just a horrific story. But when you talk with him now, and I think I got to see him a few times, and he's written a book, a really good book. So it is. I'll probably have a copy of it over there for you if you're looking for another book. Like Why
Please.
Me by Kiwan Amy. And it's just a great story of overcoming obstacles. Man, life is going to throw some crazy things at you. And sometimes you don't always have great decisions, but you do have to make a decision. So his was head on or T-bone. And you make that decision. And he hasn't let that get him down. He does a lot of public speaking. He's written his book. And, it's very motivating. But yeah, it was a horrible story.
Motivating and inspiring, Dr. Josh. So, how do you define leadership or support in the context of your book?
So leadership, I break that down into some very simple traits there. So leadership is about trust. It's about like developing ownership in your organization. So especially with this younger generation right now, I have a lot of young adults. I call them kids. I'm 47 years old, but like 18 to 25. That it's a different mindset. If you don't get them to engage very quickly and have ownership in your organization, like my squadron, they bail. They just quit. They don't really have a lot of the resilience to overcome things. And we're trying to teach them that. But the basics, when you take ownership, you talk about accountability for your actions, accountability for your team. In special operations, you've got that ultimate accountability. Everything is your problem. Nobody passes the buck. Everybody owns that, and just you're better off as an organization. And when you have those leadership skills, I set standards, not rules. So nobody likes rules. When you talk about standards, those very basics, people understand that. Take pride in being a part of this team. Like you put on a military uniform, it has tremendous power. There's a huge responsibility. It's like a superhero. I mean, I have certain standards to be a part of my squadron. And when I put it in terms like that instead of just rules, people understand that. I empower them to make decisions. I don't micromanage. I choose good people. I'm not a genius. I don't know everything, but I'm very good at picking up talent. And, when you choose the right people and let them do their job and don't micromanage, you get good results. If I chose poorly and they're not getting the job done and I'm having to micromanage, it's on me. I made a bad decision. They are no longer in that position, and I find somebody else that can. But just those simple tips right there, I've had some very good results.
Certainly. So, what do you believe is the most important quality someone needs to be the weight behind bigger mission or vision?
To care and have that belief in yourself and know that what you do every day matters. When you have that belief, when you have that confidence, that's going to translate to other people, and you're going to be very valuable to whatever organization or job or team that you want to be a part of. That's probably the most critical thing.
Certainly, because people nowadays, they always saying, "Who cares? We need to care each other, people."
So there's a lot of apathy. There's a lot of apathy out there. But when
Yes,
you take these simple skills and you really believe in yourself and believe in your organization, be part of something or someone that matters. That's being the weight behind the spear.
certainly. So, how does the book challenge traditional ideas of leadership or success?
I'm not sure if it's challenging as much as it is just bringing back some older fundamental leadership traits. These things have changed so much. Everything is digital. People aren't having those personal interactions. Everything is over video. Everyone's attention levels are just everyone has like ADD. It takes a little bit more time to develop one on one, like talking with people, developing relationships. It shouldn't be challenging anything. These are just good basic fundamental things that I think due to COVID and being shut out of the communities for 2 or 3 years, we just lost some of that. I just want to bring it back and let people know how important that is, because we are seeing the results now in our young military recruits and people coming into my emergency department. Just crazy issues, huge increase in mental health. It is a crisis. Anxiety, depression, and unfortunately, I've seen a few suicides. I've seen a lot of suicides in 20 some years, but it is increasing in rate. And when you're the one that has to walk into that family, you got to look them in the eye and you sit down and you cry with them. I'm sorry your loved one didn't make it. I mean, it's someone's son or daughter or parent or grandma or aunt. I've seen a lot of terrible things, and just trying to help people get back on the right track.
So, are particular experiences like military service or team sports that shape your philosophy?
Oh, for me, I love sports. Huge sports guy. Was a small kid. I wrestled 119 and 112 as a freshman and sophomore. So like you can't play football at that. Yeah, I grew up in a very small rural area where there wasn't soccer. I love soccer. Yeah, that probably would have been my sport, but we just didn't have a lot of that where I grew up in rural Nebraska. So it was wrestling for me, and my wrestling coaches were just pivotal in just teaching me accountability and what it means to put in that hard work. For me, wrestling is the ultimate accountability. There's nobody to blame. Nobody dropped the ball. Nobody missed the basket. You know, nobody missed a block. It's just you. It's you and one other dude, and you either beat him or you didn't. And if you didn't win, then you didn't work hard enough. Or I mean, they might have just been better than you. But what do you have to do personally to get better, stronger, faster, more endurance, eat better? It's just one on one. There's nobody to blame. I love it.
Again, Dr. Josh and Mr. Josh, very well said.
Thank you.
So, how do you differentiate between being a leader and being essential support for a leader?
They're you're being a leader on either way. I don't know if I would differentiate that as much as just, when you have like titles as a commander, like there's no gray line there at all. So I have a great support staff around me that definitely offer leadership. My senior enlisted leader, my senior administrator, my first sergeant. I mean, I have a lot of leaders in my squadron, but that commander, I mean that title, the responsibility is all mine. Everything that goes well, it's the team, it's the people, I love to recognize that. If it goes wrong, it's all me every time, regardless of whether I really had too much to do with that decision or not. As a commander in the military, that's that ultimate accountability. So it's all my fault. So last year, I had one of my airmen involved in a road rage incident. Because I command in Washington D.C., and there was an exchange of gunfire, and he shot somebody. Was I there? No. Is that still my responsibility? Yes. And so, we had a very prolonged legal case, and we were the first sergeant was at a lot of those court dates, and we're there for them. And unfortunately, it just did not end up well, for this individual. I do not advocate shooting people. He certainly had to protect himself, but there are probably a lot of other things that he could have done before it got to that level. And there's just situations and big decisions that you deal with. So, I've encountered a lot of different things as a commander, things I never would have imagined. But you take accountability of that, and you learn to mentor and help your people. And it's a lot. It gets pretty stressful at times, but I take a lot of pride in that.
Dr. Josh, you talk about being force behind the action. How does humility play into that role?
Yeah, I see a lot of egos. So, as an emergency physician, if I tell you there's some neurosurgeons, cardiothoracic surgeons, I see plenty of egos. As a military commander, you see tons of egos as well, especially with special operators. I mean, they have monster egos, but I mean, they have to. To do what they do, you ask them to jump out of airplanes, to put their life on the line, and do things that no sane person on planet Earth would ever even consider doing. They do it without any hesitation. And so the ego plays a big part of that, but you develop that. That's part of their training. It's they can't be in that position and not have an ego. You just wouldn't even mentally survive the training part of it. So, just yeah, I've learned to deal with lots of different people. As a leader, you have to have that humility. You cannot have a monster ego. I walk into a room, I let people know I have an open door, come in and chat with me anytime. Certainly we have a lot of formalities, customs, and courtesies in the military that's important for discipline and order. But when I'm sitting down and talking with people, I don't have a big ego. I make mistakes. I want to know. That's the problem with egos. People with egos don't like people telling them when they're wrong. I want people to tell me. If I can't rationalize and discuss to you why I'm making a decision, then I probably need to rethink that decision. If it's difficult for me to articulate why this is important or why I'm thinking this, it might not be the right decision. So, I want to be challenged. I want people to ask those questions. Those things are critical for leadership. So, like, having some humility and don't have a big ego. Don't let that get in your way.
Certainly. Most of the people right now, they are being defensive if they are being correct, most especially of the leaders. So, what are some common mistakes people make when trying to be effective team members or supporters?
So, there's if you're talking about like leaders, they've in our like, Air War College and Air Command and Staff College, they talk about Bathsheba syndrome, right? When leaders have been in a position for so long, they kind of almost feel like they're untouchable. They start pushing boundaries. They're taking risks, and they make some dumb decisions just because, well, I'm the boss, I'm in charge, I can kind of do what I want. And well, you see inappropriate relationships, especially in the military. That fraternization between officers and enlisted always causes problems. I've, seen a few events of that we've had to address in my squadron, and I think we have the ship right where we want it. It's running very smoothly. Knock on wood, nothing too crazy yet. But those types of things when people, in their egos and they think they're too special and can just do whatever they want. That's not productive. Like everybody has to be accountable. Nobody's special.
Certainly. Totally agree, Dr. Josh. So, how does your book help readers balance ambition with service to a greater cause?
Yeah, so that's the whole. I break it down into four parts. So the whole first part, section one, is how to be the weight. And I break that down, like leadership, accountability, taking ownership, just those really basics. The second section of that is how to not be the weight behind the spear. You know, unscrupulous CEOs, embezzling, doing crazy stuff, being so narrow focused and just missing the big picture. I've got a great the chapter in there, Marsha, Marsha, Marsha. Just is a hilarious story about one of my nurses that I worked with several years ago that just was hell bent on getting boxes checked and so narrowly focused that she just completely ignores the guy that's like about ready to die. I mean, she's filling out the chart and she's getting those boxes filled and just completely ignoring the fact that the guy is ready to die. Like, they actually had some pacer pads on him and she had inadvertently turned it on. It was so focused on the computer doing her thing, she didn't even recognize the little rhythmic jumps, and it wasn't synced appropriately on the QRS interval, on an EKG. So every time that was shocking, it was almost killing him. Because if you hit it just wrong, if you watch football, Damar Hamlin, the Buffalo Bills safety, so about 2 years ago, was struck in the chest while making a tackle, and he just went like asystolic, just stopped breathing, like basically about died on the field, and they had to bring him back. So that's that principle. So every time this shock was going through, it was milliseconds from killing him. And it's a crazy story. You got to read the story. It's a fun chapter. I don't want to make too light of it. As an emergency physician, sometimes you have a lot different sense of humor than most people, but just really important. Like, don't get so narrow focused. And then the third section is just kind of stories that shape me about who I am and help my weight get shaped. And the last section is the people, like my family, and some of those stories that really are behind who I am. So it's that's how it shakes out.
So, Dr. Josh, what would be your advice for those people out there to be the weight behind the spear?
Yeah, get out in your community and volunteer. Don't be afraid to fail. Don't be afraid to get made fun of. Like, what you have to say and what you bring to the table matters. Like, don't discount your role. Like, everything matters. So get out there. Don't be afraid to fail. If you're not failing, you're not pushing yourself hard enough. So get out there. Like, don't do anything crazy risky, right? But just,
Yes,
it's get out there. You matter. We need you.
definitely. Just do it. And don't afraid to what people say about you. Don't afraid to commit
Yeah,
mistake.
yeah. You got to get out there. If you're not
Definitely.
making mistakes, you're not pushing hard enough.
Certainly. What mindset shift do you recommend for those who struggle to find fulfillment in supporting roles?
Surround yourself. Like, don't when that happens, you tend to isolate yourself and you tend to withdraw. It's tough, but you have to let people know how you're feeling, what's going through your mind, whether it's like family members or coworkers, some colleagues, maybe people in your church. I mean, make sure you have that weight set up beforehand. Don't wait till there's a problem, right? People withdraw and then they have nobody to turn to. So, just consciously think about that. Like, who's my weight? Who would I turn to if I have this problem? Or, if I'm feeling down, who can I chat with? I mean, for me, my spouse, my family, my brothers, everybody has something. So make sure you develop those relationships. Like, don't wait till it's rock bottom. Like, keep those, the people are important.
Definitely. So, what would be your short term and long term goals in writing?
Short term, I'm still doing a lot of publicity on the book. I found out in May about the Pulitzer Prize, which is still a bit shocking. Super proud, very, very humbled. And long term, looking at doing a children's book series. I've also done working on a screenplay right now as well. So for me, after 20 some years in medicine, it's been very, very busy. And just the last like year or two, I've tried to get back to exploring that other side of my brain and doing something creative and writing. And it's been very therapeutic for me. I mean, as an emergency physician, you see horrible things all the time, and this this has helped. It's like it's very therapeutic.
Definitely. Good luck to your goals, Dr. Josh, and
Thank
looking
you.
forward for more and more and more empowering books like this to come. For sure, you're gonna do also, or you're gonna write a medical book for sure, sooner or later.
Yeah, I was a professor at Duke University. Really enjoyed the academics. Um, boy, it's when you're talking about writing like academics books and getting in that high pressure environment where you got to be publishing all the time. That's what's I've been there, done that. It's a lot of work and not paid very well. So we'll see what happens.
Yes, indeed. Again, congratulations
Thank
for
you.
being nominee in the Pulitzer. So, how do you hope this book will impact organizations or teams that adopt its principles?
The more people that read the book, the more hands I can get this into, it's only going to help your community. It really, if you look at it very fundamentally, helps promote national security, right? Your community, it starts with you. And so, this next generation, helping them be successful, helping them be better leaders. I want to retire at some point. I got to hand the keys to somebody. I need these kids to be ready to go and be successful. So, the more investment we put into that right now, the better. I have a nonprofit organization as well, Weight Behind the Spear Foundation, that really promotes that. We've raised money for Western North Carolina, had some huge destruction after Hurricane Helene in September of last year. If people go to weightbehindthespear.com, WEIGHT, weightbehindthespear.com, you can certainly learn more about that. And the more you get involved in your community, the better off. So wherever you are, that's always a good prescription.
Certainly, it's better to give than receive, people.
Yeah.
So, what is the most challenging part of writing this book?
Finding the time for me as a military
You're
commander, an
busy.
emergency physician, wife, and three kids, it was very, very challenging. I wrote on the road. So when I was, I travel and do some locums work and things. So when I was away from home was where I did a majority of my writing. At home, things are pretty crazy. I've got three kids, so just finding the time.
Certainly, time is gold, as they
Yes. Oh my
say.
goodness, time is very precious.
What would you say to someone who feels their contribution are invisible or undervalued?
Yeah, that same message. You do matter, and you do have influence on the people around you, even though you don't think you do. The people that you interact with every day, your coworkers, somebody in the cubicle next to you, maybe you're flipping burgers at McDonald's, telling some funny stories. I mean, I cooked fast food as a kid. I was a cook at Kentucky Fried Chicken. I worked briefly at a McDonald's. Just those interactions. I still stay in touch with some of those people. My managers at Kentucky Fried Chicken are some of my still, some of my best friends I see whenever I go back to Alliance, small town in Western Nebraska. To be honest, I've done a lot of crazy things. My favorite job, as bizarre as it sounds, it was cooking chicken in Kentucky Fried Chicken in Western Nebraska when I was in high school and early college. Just great people. I still stay in touch with them, and so that's a job right there. Like fast food, cooking chicken. Yes, those people had a huge impact on me. I still stay in touch with them. It's been 20, gosh, close to 30 years now. So what you do really matters.
Certainly. So, Dr. Josh, you have a really humble beginning.
I,
So,
I, I
bef-
do.
Definitely. So before we wrap up our discussion for today, speaking of food, I'm inviting you to please do listen to my other podcast, Food 101, and its
Ooh,
fifth season. People, fifth season with Chef Alessandro, one of the specialty chef in one of the five-star hotel in downtown Toronto. Please do listen to our latest episode. We are reading our letter senders all over the world. So please do listen, Food 101, wherever you listen your podcast. So, Dr. Josh, are you planning to write a follow up or expand on these ideas in future books or talks?
yeah. Just I think want to get it for younger audiences and get a children's book series to really kind of break that down and just make some of that learning fun with some great illustrations. Unfortunately, I can't draw at all. I do not have that skill in the slightest. So just looking for some good illustrators out there. So anybody out there, if you have fantastic illustrator skills with children's books, look me up.
Certainly looking forward for that. Dr. Josh, let's empower our generation to generations to come. And thank you so much for empowering us. Be the weight behind the spear. Can you please invite our listeners to support your book?
Yes, thank you. So available on Barnes and Noble, Amazon as well, and the website weightbehindthespear.com, WEIGHT, weightbehindthespear.com.
Yes, people, let's support Dr. Josh McConkey, because if you support him, more and more and more empowering books like this to come. So, Dr. Josh, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
More to come, people. See you soon.